Hi, how's it going? So today I'm going to show my favorite history resources, all books that we've been using from kindergarten all the way to when I'm filming this, which is my daughter's 4th grade year. And I just filmed a video that's uploaded now that is science, all my favorite science resources, so check that out if you're interested in science, but this is just going to be history. And so for the science one, I basically grouped all of my favorite resources by publisher. But I didn't do that for history because I have way less history books than I do for science, so that was harder to do. So what I did was group them kind of a little bit by American history in categories, and then I grouped the other ones by like my favorite, like kind of ancient-ish history, and then the rest of the categories I'll tell you guys when I get to them, which are more series. And then the first two I have to show you guys are ones that are more like general history books that I think you can use and base like your own curriculum off of. So this book by DK is A Child Through Time, a book of children's history. This one is probably my favorite book that I have that's for history because I think you can base the whole curriculum off of it and build off of it, because it goes through different children from so many different time periods. And I'm going to link everything in the video. So here's a table of contents. And it starts at the beginning with early civilization, so a child living during the last ice age. And then it has like the timeline at the bottom. Yeah, so I really like this book for history. I think it could work for a large amount of age groups. Yeah. And I like how it has, photography, and then of course, illustrations of the child, and then of different things. So yeah, so that's probably my favorite history book that we own. And then the second history book that I think you can use throughout so many different time periods, that is my second favorite, is also by DK. And this is DK, When on Earth, History as You've Never Seen Before. So this one I'm actually currently using right now as we're studying early modern history. And I've pretty much pulled this book out many times throughout the years. And I like how it has like a map in the beginning section. And here is the table of contents. Ancient, medieval, modern, and then 20th and 21st centuries. So I like how it's color-coded with the different time periods. So the first, of course, is the ancient world, and here's the timeline. Now, each section doesn't have a huge amount, of like pages in that's, well, I mean, I guess it does. I guess it depends what you think. So for the ancient period, it's like, it's like this thick. I don't know how many pages, but approximately 20 pages. So, I mean, it is almost enough, I think, to, use other supplements with this. So I really like it. I really like the maps and how they talk about different things, the different time periods. And then, getting to different time periods. Here's like the medieval world. So yeah, so I really think it's been really helpful, and we plan on going ahead and using it, until we get to the end, slowly. We're kind of studying this period right now, 15 and 1600, so we kind of just look through it. And we're also, let me talk about what we've used for history too. Okay, so that was like the two main history books. And then next I have some ancient history stuff, but let me also say right now that in kindergarten we really didn't do separate history, I don't believe. But then first grade, second grade, I may be wrong, but first grade, second grade, I want to say I kind of did my own curriculum where I probably used one of those two books I showed you, like A Child Through Time. And then when it came to third grade, that was the first time I actually purchased like a history curriculum. And what I purchased was Curiosity Chronicles, and actually we did the Ancient World. And yeah, so we did that. We did audio book, which was really great because I didn't have to read as much. And then we used a lot of supplements, which I'm showing you guys. And then for over the summer, which was last summer between third and fourth grade, I decided that I didn't want to spend a whole year, which would have been fourth grade, on the medieval period. I don't know. I just wasn't that interested in that time period, and neither was my daughter. And I'm not saying it's not valuable to learn about, but we just didn't want to spend, I just didn't want to spend a whole school year on it for just random reasons. And so I decided to just do a mini Middle Ages unit over the summer. And so over the summer, we kind of just read like the books that we had. And I didn't purchase the Curiosity Chronicles medieval, Middle Ages curriculum. And then when it came to fourth grade, which is where we're in now, I decided that I didn't want to continue with Curiosity Chronicles, and I wanted to do American history because I feel like we never really did American history from kindergarten through third, and I felt like she really was starting to read a lot of modern fiction, and they were talking about different things that she wasn't aware of. So I thought, well, let me just go ahead and buy Blossom and Root, A River of Voices for fourth grade. So we started a Blossom and Root, A River of Voices for fourth grade, and then we just kind of missed Curiosity Chronicles, which was the audiobook mainly that we missed. And just for other various reasons, I decided to just put off American history a little bit longer and then go ahead and go back to world history. So now we're back on Curiosity Chronicles, which is also the audiobook and the worksheets and stuff, the student packet. And we're doing early modern history. That's working out pretty good. And then, yeah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that in case like you're watching my videos and you've never watched my videos before and you're just curious about that. So yeah, so right now we are using Curiosity Chronicles again. And then for fifth grade, which yes, I'm planning ahead, I do plan on going back to American history, but I'm gonna make my own curriculum again. I think and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so sorry, I'm like rambling, but I thought that would be valuable to know, Okay, maybe, hopefully. So these three, I'm just gonna show these real quick. These are just series resources you can use. This isn't really a series, but it has other ones. So this one is just Horrible Histories. This one's Groovy Greeks. These are just good. My daughter read these on her own just for her to get more knowledge, on the subject when we were studying ancient history. Same thing for this. This is Ranger in Time, Danger in Ancient Rome, but these aren't just ancients. They have a bunch of different time periods. So this one I just pulled because we used it for ancient history. But yeah, so this one's like chapter book, fiction, based on certain time periods, and the dog going through that. So she really liked this, of course. It has a dog in it, and yeah. So that was another good resource, I thought. And then this one isn't really like a series, but they do have other ones because we actually have another one. I'm not sure how many they have, but this one is the Aztec Empire, and the publisher is Francis Lincoln, which we love them. This is just a pretty short, it's like picture book-ish size, but it's nonfiction, and I think the text is very engaging. And it's cool because it has a fold-out map. So when you're studying the Aztec Empire, it's kind of cool. So this was also something that we used when we got to this time period. Sorry. Make it, okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, here they go. Here it goes. Roman, Ancient Greeks, and Ancient Egyptians. And then, yeah, here's the Aztecs. So that's 4 so far. I'm not sure if they have more. Okay. And then those are like my series I want to show you guys, resources. And then these are kind of just have different parts of history in them. So this is Lonely Planet Kids. This is a really good publisher. They have a lot of history and geography books. Build Your Own History Museum. So this was just a fun edition I got when we were studying ancient history. And this is the groups types, you know, ancient chapters or whatever. Not really chapters, but it's like parts of the book that it goes by, separated by. Okay, and then so it has little like pop-ups. This one doesn't, but this one does. So they all have these like pop-ups, and you put them together. So she was able to put this together. It came with like additional pages, and so it's kind of just a fun book to look at. Like, it's not something that I use like for teaching necessarily, but we used it as a supplement when we were on ancient Egypt. I had her do this, make this little pop-up, you know, as we got to each, you know, area of study. Then we got this book out, and she was able to do this. So it was a fun addition to the end of each, to the end of each section when we were studying these civilizations. And yeah, so some of them are pop-ups, some of them are just like little, you know, like detail things that you put, and then we'd read about it, you know, out loud, orally. So yeah, so that's just a fun little addition I thought was a cute resource. And then this one is kind of like, you could say it's archaeology, anthropology / history of, you know, so I just wanted to show it because it's one of our most unique books. Also by Lonely Planet Kids. This is an Incredible Cabinet of Wonders. So this book I really didn't use in like the, you know, curriculum year, like study of history, but my daughter checked it out from a library and she just kept thinking about it. So she's like, oh, like, can we buy this book? And I was like, of course. And then it, of course, correlates to education too. But I thought it'd be fun to include in this video because it's just a really pretty book. And it has all these little lifted flaps of these different, here's like all the different cabinets, which is historical. This is stuff you would see in a museum. And I believe these are in a real museum. Yeah, and I think in the back, yeah, they have like the museums that they're actually in, which is super cool. It'd be super awesome, like if you live near one of these museums or we're going on a trip, and then you could look at the stuff in the book and then go find it. If it's, I mean, some exhibits travel, but if it's a permanent exhibit, you know. But I thought that was super cool. And so it's just really fun. Like, here's the archaeologist cabinet. And then, you know, here's doctors. And it's just really fun. Monster. Taylor's cabinet. And this, you know, very much, yeah. All these things, they tell you, when you lift the flap, you know, it tells you, like, these are moon boots. Were they? Oh, actually worn by astronaut Eugene Cernan during Apollo 17 mission. So, yeah, very much history. In 1972. Oh, yeah, and then it tells you where to see it. The National Air and Space Museum, USA. So, super cool. Let me just flip through it real quick. The rest of it, scientists. It's beautiful. It's just something you can just get lost in, and it's educational. Love it. And then, okay, so this is also, you know, also like we're in the time period, Pirates Magnified by Wide-Eyed, one of my favorite publishers. So this has different time periods when pirates were fooling around. So it starts with 1492. So when you're on this part of history, you can get it out. And then, oh yeah, it has like a little magnifying glass. And then you can, you know, look for the things, 10 things to spot here in each illustration. So it's interactive. I like that. I like interactive books. And they teach you stuff. Like, this is a section on Blackbeard, 1680 to 1718. So like 1700s is when pirates were doing things in this book. So yeah. And then the next book is also a book that has like different time periods. So this is Historium by Big Picture Press. Welcome to the Museum series. This is a huge book. And this one, let's see. And it's like we use this in our archaeology unit. And of course it has like all these artifacts found in different places. So it's like, yeah. And here's like some artifacts found in southern Africa, and then you go on, Western Africa. So yeah, just a really pretty book. And again, I didn't use this we kind of just looked at it when we were studying different, things. I didn't really use it as part of the curriculum. We kind of just used it as a visually stimulating book to look at, that loosely pertained to what we were studying, which are some of my favorite books to own, that they're just beautiful to look at, and of course it's educational. So yeah, so that's Historium. And then now the next section is American history. The first thing are just options to use to teach history. And so one, of course, is, this is just a type of book you could use, but this is The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. So this is historical fiction, and, it's it starts off in 1687 in Connecticut. And it deals with is dealing with people accusing women of being a witch, which plays into the Salem witch trials and the whole history of that. But yeah, it's fictional, of course. But yeah, I just wanted to include it because I really loved it. I didn't read this when I was younger. I actually read this as an adult, and I really loved it. It actually won the Newbery Medal, and I really liked it. And my daughter hasn't read it yet, but I want her to read it. We didn't start reading about the Salem witch trials yet, but I bought I bought this book for when we got to the Salem witch trials, which we haven't got to it yet with world history. I'm not sure if it's going to cover it, but regardless, this book just grabbed me by the cover. Oh my gosh. When I saw this book online, Witches, the Absolute True Tale of Disaster in Salem. It's a National Geographic is a publisher, and then here's the author. So this book, I wanted to read it myself. I really love the illustrations. I'm not sure if they're woodcuts, but I thought, wow, reading about such a dark part of history, yet you're reading about it by this really talented illustrator, doesn't hurt, right? Because it's such a dark part of history, but it's why not? If I'm drawn to this book because of the illustrations, it'll make it, my reading experience of something so dark, and my daughter's, to me, a little bit more, I don't know, just engaging, I guess. But yeah, I just love books with beautiful illustrations with any subject, and this is one of those. And so, yeah, that was when I first saw it, and I was looking for books on the Salem witch trial. I was like, yep, that's the one. And then, like I said, this I just brought as one example of many, 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 many options you can choose. That was just from my own personal bookshelf on having your child read historical fiction while you're studying that time period. This is a book I plan for her to read, and I already read it. Okay, and then the next two books are books that are more for older kids or adults. But this one, specifically says, they both say for young people. I believe they both have an adult version. These are the ones made for young people, but depending on what age you would want your child to read these I think are a little bit middle grade age or older or high school. But I wanted to show them because as a parent, educator, home educator, adult, if you want to read books on history, regardless of, you know, the reading age, these I think work whether you're in homeschool or not, because they're just very interesting. So yes, so this first one is Howard Zinn, A Young People's History of the United States. This one I actually just bought recently, and I wanted to show it in this video because I haven't used it yet, but I plan on using it for 5th grade, and I'm going to do another video on that later. So if I change my mind, I'll let you guys know, but this is my plan. And I just happened to be in Barnes & Noble one day, and I decided to just buy it because it was there, and even though 5th grade, you know, is almost a good bit away, I wanted to go ahead and get it early and check it out, and I really like it. And so that's why I want to show in this video, because I think it could be a really good resource if you're thinking of planning your own curriculum or reading it together while you're studying American history, or whatever however you want to use it. So there's part 1, you know, and then there's part 2. And what I decided, I like how the chapters aren't super long. Of course, like I said, this is his young people's version. And some books, you know, on history, I've noticed, are just, the chapters are just so long, as they should be. But, you know, I'm still dealing with a 5th grader. I'm going to be dealing with a 5th grader. So I didn't want something like textbook size, just super long. So I really like the size of the chapters. This was Columbus and the Indians. It also has some black and white illustrations. And let's see. So this chapter is, oh yeah, it started to mark it. Sorry, it's my little washi tape. This chapter is, let's see, like, you know, this long. So I would say, like, I'm probably going to spend, I haven't totally planned it out yet, but I thought it's a very good amount of pages to not be too much. Yeah, it's written really well. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but I started reading through it, and I'm really happy with it to do American history, to teach American history with. So what I plan on doing is buying the audio book. So I'm going to probably either, somehow do an audible version of this while we're reading it. So that way it'll kind of give us that break, you know, to actually hear someone else say it. I think Howard Zinn does the audio of it too himself. But anyway, so yeah, that's my plans for 5th grade for American history, is this book. And I'll just read a little bit. Young people have been making important contributions to history for centuries. Stories punctuate this illustrated young adult edition of A People's History of the United States, which brings to light the viewpoints of workers, slaves, immigrants, women, Native Americans, and others whose stories and their impact are rarely included in history books. So, yeah, that's why I picked it, because I thought it'd be interesting, his perspective on that. And then this one I've shown before, actually, when I started Blossom and River Voices. She suggested this book as a book for older kids and or adults. And I bought it for myself to read, but I didn't get to it yet because, like I mentioned to you guys, we decided to do world history, and I wanted to focus on this when we do American history. So this, also, I'm not sure how I'm going to mix in with the Howard Zinn book. I might do one part of the year, this one the second part of the year, vice versa. I'm not sure. And I'm thinking I want to check to see if this one has an audio version too, because again, it has like a lot of text, which her and I do not like to read orally. Like some people do, and that's why I say things like that about the text for me personally. Like I don't like to read long spans out loud. And history is one of the hardest things for me because you don't usually have like that dialogue like you would, or some books in a novel. So yeah, if I can get the audio version from now on, I will, and that's what I'm probably gonna do. And this is like the chapters, and again, they're not super long, but just for me personally, for her and I to read it, let's see, oh, that's not too bad. So this is like a chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is not bad at all, but still, I think I'm gonna do the audiobook. Let me just show you guys. So it has some illustrations, which are like photos, and again, I think an important book to read about different perspectives, American history, and yeah, so. Okay, now more series. The Who HQ, of course. Who was Harriet Tubman? They have a million of these. Really good resource for history. And then this one I want to show you guys as an alternative to the WHO HQ. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I found this publisher. They remind me of each other because they're like seemingly similar sizes, mostly history, mostly biography. Well, they have some science ones too, I think. But let me show you why they're different. So this is by Rock Ridge Press. I found Rock Ridge Press and I realized they're a really good resource for, especially if you're homeschooling or looking for books like this for your kids, nonfiction. Rock Ridge Press does very similar books, except this is a story of Benjamin Franklin, which I bought for Blossom and Root, but they're in color. So if you're someone who prefers color to the WHO HQ or your child, then these might be a good option for you. And that's exactly why I was drawn to them. Now they're a little bit more expensive. Probably not if you get them used, but I think they're fairly new, like they're newer, I don't know. But I shouldn't say things I'm not sure about. But I didn't discover them until recently. And let's see, like this one I think was printed in 2020 or 9, I don't know. But okay, so yeah, so that's it. I just wanted to show you guys that. So they have little question area, and then like I said, it is an option if you prefer color. So I would like to get more of these books from Rock Ridge, because I'll be honest, like the WHO HQ, they're so tiny and it's just black and white. It's really hard for me to read. She reads those by herself, but I would actually like to learn more about certain people, like biographies, short biographies like this, and I prefer color. I'm just gonna say it. So that's just me. And they have a bunch. You know, these are just like 4 more options that they have, but they have a bunch. Rock Ridge Press. Okay, and then this is just another like little series, If You Lived at the Time. This one's of course The American Revolution by Scholastic. And this is just, these honestly aren't books that like I'm drawn to immediately because they're a little, you know, they're older. They're a little bit, like the illustrations are just, you know, they're realistic, but they're not, I guess artsy is what I'm trying to say, and nothing's wrong with that. But they aren't books I'm drawn to because of the visual imagery. And like I said, it's not that they're bad books or anything like that, but I think they're really good for fitting in a lot of information. And like this one's like 76 pages, and you could get a pretty good idea of, you know, what was going on with the American Revolution, in my opinion. So I think they're very good books, you know, for what they are. Yeah. Okay, and then still continuing with American history. This is just one of my favorite books I bought over the past year. D.K. Smithsonian, The President's Visual Encyclopedia. And this one is just like what it is. You know, I like the fact that we haven't started studying the presidents yet, but when we do, we'll just have all of them in one book. That way I don't, you know, up until our current president that we have now. So I don't have to go and grab and search different biographies, you know, because I want her to learn about the different presidents, of course, because it is part of our history in the U.S. So that's why I got this book, because I just thought, you know, when we're studying different presidents, we can just use this book as a reference. That way we don't have to, you know, dig through other history books, and that's why I think it's a good resource in my opinion. And then it also has other things about American history, like it has the first ladies, and then it has, like here, it has like parts about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the American Revolution. So it has some American history in here too, very short, but still, I didn't expect that. Congress, the Bill of Rights, Civil War, voting amendments, you know, it has different things. And a map. So it's really nice. Really like it. I almost feel like if you want to like hardcore study the presidents, you could almost use that book just like for almost half a year and just, you know, I like the format of it. Okay, so now here's talking about the Constitution. Here is We the People, the United States Constitution, Explored and Explained, by one of my favorite publishers, which is Wide-Eyed. So again, this is just, you know, a book on a single topic, but when you're studying the Constitution, I like how it's laid out by amendments. Again, history is not my strong point. So when I can find books like this that can, you know, break it down for her visually, I really like them, especially. So this is one of my favorite books. And here's like articles. And then the amendments. And I like the illustrations. They make it fun because I don't remember being, I'm not a history person. If you like history, then it was probably different, but I just know, like, I don't remember anything I learned in history. Pretty much middle school, maybe a little bit in college, but I don't, like, elementary, middle school, I don't really remember any, like, I couldn't, yeah. So hopefully this book will be more engaging for her than the books I had, so I'm hoping. I think so. Okay, so this book I bought again for studying American history for this year. This is The Middle Passage by Tom Feeling. So this is almost a wordless illustrated book about the Middle Passage and slavery, the slave trade. So I'm going to read a little bit about what it says. The Middle Passage was one of the most tragic ordeals in history, the terrifying and cruel trafficking of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean. In this seminal work, master artist Tom Fillings tells the complete story of this horrific crossing in 64 narrative paintings. They show us the lives of millions of African men, women, and children who were savagely torn from their homeland, crowded onto disease-ridden death ships, and transported under nightmarish conditions to the so-called New World. So, yeah, like, I thought it was a very important part of history for her to learn about, and we really didn't own a lot of books. We didn't own any books on this subject, and when I was looking for books on this subject to explain it to her, this was the one that stuck out in visually, and just the fact that the perspective of who it was written from, Tom Feelings, and the fact that he also wrote it and illustrated it. I really love writer illustrators. And so we actually already read this book. We read the introduction, and then we didn't read the introductions by everyone, which I want to go back to the next time we read it, because I think this is one of the books, since it's wordless, that you can reread it. Not that we reread a lot of worded books, but what I'm saying is, since it is wordless, I find those books are even more engaging to read, to look at more than once, because you notice different things. So we read his introduction, and the next time we're going to go ahead and read the second introduction, because it was a lot and then they have like different introductions. I think one of these is by his child, and Tom Feelings, and then they have different introductions. So we didn't read this all at once, but we did look through it when we got to this part of history. And right now, Curiosity Chronicles, which is early modern history, and I highly recommend it. Okay, and so I have one more book, and it's from the library, because I actually checked it out, which I do a lot if I can find a book I'm interested in at the library, and I checked it out because I wanted to know if I would like it to buy it, and I definitely do, and that's why I'm showing it to you guys in this video for resources, because I think it'd be a really good resource for American history. It's Heart and Soul, The Story of America and African Americans, by Kadar, I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, Kadar Nelson. You know what? That name sounds familiar. Wow, see, I didn't even realize that. Wow, this is a total coincidence. I'm not kidding. This author did an introduction in this book. So I just figured that out. I was like, wow, that name, and I've never heard of this author. Okay, interesting. So this book, Heart and Soul, I actually got it because I'm looking for books. I kind of live in the future with books. So I wanted to start looking for books I'm going to go ahead and add to my American history for 5th grade. And this is one of my contenders, and I decided I'm going to buy it. And that's why I'm showing it, because I think it's a really good length. It is, let's see, it's 101 pages. And, it's a story of America and African Americans. The story of America and African Americans is a story of hope and inspiration and unwavering courage. But it's also the story of injustice, of a country divided by law, education, and wealth, of a people whose struggles and achievements help define their country. This is the story of the men, women, and children who toiled in the hot sun picking cotton for their masters. It's about the America ripped into by Jim Crow laws. It's the brothers and sisters of all colors who railed against those who would dare bar a child from an education. It's a story of discrimination and broken promises, determination and triumphs. So, I got this book because I thought her and I could read it together when we get to, like, probably in the beginning of when we're in the beginning of the year for American history. So yeah, so let me just start to show it. I really like the illustrations. Let's see. Oh, it's also illustrated. Wow. This person, I don't know if it's I don't know this author. Let's see. So it sounds like, wow, this is also an author, illustrator, just like Tom Feeling. So I love that. Kadar Nelson. Okay, so anyway, so sorry. I'm rambling. But I love the illustrations. And I love how the chapters, again, are fairly short. Like this is a chapter, the Declarations of Independence. So when we're on that part in the Howard Zinn book, we can get this book out and read about, the first section. And so I really see this book working for us. Slavery is chapter 2 to go perfect, with our American history, the beginnings of our studies on that. So yeah, I really like illustrated books when it comes to history that are educational, of course, nonfiction, but that, like I said, don't have an overwhelming amount of information for her. And I think this could work, for so many different age groups, whether you're reading it out loud or your child's reading it by themselves, vice versa. And very visually stimulating illustrations. So, okay, so that's the author. I didn't know, Kadar Nelson. Okay, so yeah, those are all my favorite resources that I've used and plan on using, that I've found in the past years that I want to share with you guys. I hope you found this video interesting and liked it. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. Bye.